Hi guys, welcome back to the Session Talk Show, and we are of course your source for music, sports, fashion, and community. Today as we celebrate Black History Month, we're celebrating Black excellence, Black creativity, I love that, and Black storytelling. I mean, storytelling is so important. Yeah. And today we are bringing such a powerhouse guest who's redefining independent film and putting Texas back on the filmmaking map. Okay, listen, she's an NAACP Image Award nominee. Okay? I got a whole mouthful here, so bear with me as I'm working on my hooked on phonics. An Austin-based writer, director, and creative visionary whose work is sparking conversations across the country. Her latest project is already turning heads, a hilarious, real, and refreshing mockumentary rom-com called Tying the Knots. I can't wait to hear about that. Giving us the unfiltered truth about millennial marriage after the wedding bells have rang. So please help us welcome to the Session Talk Show. And I need a warm, hype up welcome for filmmaker, storyteller, creative force, Miss Holly Charles-Pearson.
Spirit fingers. Clock it.
Yes. You have all the accolades.
Yeah.
My goodness. My goodness, welcome to the show.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for your kindness just there. You guys make, and then you're all just hydrated and glowing and looking beautiful. And
Yes,
Thanks for having me here.
No problem. Thank you for being here. Please give us a little backstory of your journey and all the accolades that you have in titles.
Sure, absolutely. I think myself, like many Black women, struggle with a little bit of imposter syndrome, and so I started off thinking I want to be the next Mara Brock Akil, and that just didn't happen. I ended up going into education for about 15 years. Okay. But the way that God works is that He will continue to give you like your own private sessions. I had a private education, I feel like, during that time. When you're teaching writing, you're learning more about what you want to write. And so my master's thesis ended up turning into my first book, and then that turned into a TED Talk, and then that turned into being a part of the Houston Black Leadership Institute. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Shout out to HBLI here in Houston. And then after that, I started doing stage plays, and I always wanted to focus on us. It was always about what story needs to be told. There are soldiers out there in the world who are constantly doing the work. Yeah. And so I thought, man, as a storyteller, what's my part in this? And if I didn't have the money to fund what they were doing, I said, well, I could still tell a story so that it would create more connections. And so I started storytelling, and the very first play that I did was called In All That Getting, The Forgotten Story of Freemanstown. Wow. About Fourth Ward, right? The largest ex-slave settlement left in the United States. And I thought, man, I don't have any money to give them for their preservation efforts, but I can storytell, so I just stopped being helpless and stopped, being worried about whether or not I was qualified. And I decided to spend a year in that community, knocking on doors, getting on folks' nerves, right? Essentially just saying.
Now, are you from Houston?
I'm not. I'm from the Chicago area. So
I'm
I'm the Midwest.
How long have you been in Houston?
I've been in Houston. I've been here long enough to say I'm from here now. I've been here since 2006.
Okay, so
you're Houstonian now.
It's so much better than Chicago. But I hear Chicago is a vibe in the summer.
Chicago, summertime Chicago is absolutely incredible. And I only miss snow once a year, and that's on Christmas Day, and they can have it. So I'm settled here, and I'm dating myself, but I moved here at 25 years old. I'm 45 now. I've been here for I've been for what?
When's your birthday?
You're looking good.
March 3rd. I'll be 45. There was a reason.
We having a birthday turn up.
Okay, Pisces sisterhood, love it, but I want to talk more about you and what you're doing. So your first film, or your film, If They Took Us Back, that's the one. That in the NAACP, excuse me, the NAACP. I'm just so excited. If They Took Us Back, that got you the nomination. The NAACP Award nomination. We want to hear all about that.
How does that feel?
Well, first of all, it feels unreal still, but to kind of make the connection, I went from doing those stage plays, and then went from gentrification to then I did a play about infertility and women of color. Then I did a play about the disproportionate number of black and brown children being funneled into the juvenile justice and child welfare systems. And then by the time we're in COVID, that's when I said this imposter syndrome has got to stop. Write that screenplay that you've been wanting to write. You've done all these plays, figure it out. And that also meant figuring out funding. But I took that time and wrote If They Took Us Back, which I'd had an idea for years. And so ended up saying, I think I can afford to shoot like 20 pages of what I've written,
Wow.
right? And I took 5 days and just figured it out financially. And so that film did really well in film festivals, and it was my first film. I didn't expect for people to respond. So we got Best Picture in New York, Hip Hop Film Festival. We got Best Director here. We got Best
I have to see
Male
this film.
Performance.
That's a hand clap right there.
I think it resonates. I love that you're bringing up storytelling because storytelling is part of our history.
Yes,
so
it
of
is.
course it resonated.
Absolutely.
That's how we used to communicate and be able to do
Absolutely.
so many things. So yes,
Yeah, and I think
absolutely
I got it
resonates.
honest from my grandmother.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes.
saying? My grandmother, before the grown-up Kiki, I was a young girl Kiki with grandma. Really,
Yeah.
at the side of the bed.
Yeah, same.
And she was a storyteller.
There you go.
And so I realized how powerful that was, and it drew us closer, and I realized that
Yes.
it draws other people closer.
Yes.
And so I really did get it honest. I just needed validation at first, and I think it was my professors that first said, you need to publish, you need to do something. And so once I realized, man, I can daydream something and people, find something from it, and I can create social impact,
There you
I
go.
didn't expect it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit about that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
maybe another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
And speaking of impact, you're definitely making an impact when you decided to shift gears here and go into comedy.
Yeah.
So tell us about this shift. And,
Pisces are naturally funny. Y'all just don't know that, but y'all
Yeah,
about
we
to
don't
find out.
know that.
Let me tell you,
We don't know
comedy-
that.
Comedy is so difficult, y'all. I don't
Is
know what
it?
Wow.
It's so much more. I'm naturally very dramatic.
Okay.
I'm
So
naturally
that's
a dramatic writer. Writing the comedy wasn't difficult, but I think people forget that like comedic timing, it's really important. So it has everything. Your casting, your sound, everything really has to work together in a way. Like there's no subjectivity. It's a participatory sport. Comedy is, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that Michelle Obama can stand in front of you and give a mind-blowing speech, and your silence is welcomed as reverence. Not with comedy. I need
gotta
you
laugh.
to be participating with what's happening on the screen.
Yeah.
And so once I realized that, I said, man, if I
more
had
challenging.
known, it was way more challenging, but I'm excited to have done it because everything that I've done has been very, very heavy. And I'm not making any apologies for that.
Yeah.
Because life is heavy and our stories tend to be that way and they should
Yeah.
be exposed. However, this was me saying, I'm going to speak to African American standards of beauty for women. I'm going to speak to expectations for folks when they first get married. And I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't accuse one or the other, that doesn't
There you
accuse
go.
the man, doesn't
Yeah.
accuse the woman.
Yeah.
You're
I
going to
love
laugh
that
at yourself
perspective.
and also go home and say, do I do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was the point of me creating Tying Knots, because I got married at 40 as well.
Okay.
Oh, congratulations.
First
We're
time.
gonna talk more about that. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty.
You waited.
You don't want to go anywhere. We also need to speak about your upcoming premiere coming up too. So you guys stay tuned. We'll be right back on the Session Talk Show.
Hello, everybody. I'm filmmaker Holly Charles-Pearson. I am here with the lovely ladies of the Session Talk Show on Cam Vision 365.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Session Talk Show, and we are continuing our conversation with NAACP Image Award nominee, Miss Holly Charles-Pearson. Thank you for staying with us. She promised me to not get her in trouble with her husband, so I make sure I had to get all them names up in there. But Holly, break down, we were talking earlier about tying the knots. Break down to us, what that story is and how the mockumentary fits perfectly for nowadays.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So in Tying Knots, essentially, I owe my husband some residuals, y'all. I really looked at the first year of marriage, right, where you make that transition between being the fantasy and being like
So
real.
is this your first marriage?
This is my first and only marriage.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's just
first and
let's
only.
bring that back.
First and only.
Before we went to break, she said she married at 40, right?
I walked down the aisle at 39.
39.
And
she's about to be 45.
Yeah.
So you're like 4.5 years in.
I'm actually 5 years in.
5 years in. Okay, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Yes, so we got married, and when I tell you, all of the love remains, but you have to be real. So you really, that authenticity isn't always cute.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you go from being like, it's filled with CPAP machines and morning breath, and you know what I'm saying, and undergarments
fun
hanging
part.
over the.
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
It is, because it's more than love. More than love has to sustain you.
Absolutely. And and you're going to get hung up on one thing a little bit more than the other, but
Yeah.
ultimately you have to say, hey, I know you married the girl who was prim and proper the whole time, and you had your space and I had mine, and I could hide a few things.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got prickly hairs during the winter because I ain't
Right.
doing that all, you know what I'm saying? So we just kind of have to figure those things out. And I thought, man, this is really, really funny, but it also speaks to how we can support one another.
Yes.
Especially Black women.
Yes.
And so without really giving away too much about the film before you all go see it,
Yes.
I will say that specifically for Black women, we have to show up in the world a certain way.
We do.
Our hair,
Yes.
our skin,
Yes.
even just, you
Our
know,
tone.
our tone, everything. And so when we're at home, we often need a spouse that's going to understand what I need to do to maintain that means that sometimes I have to present differently here so that I can present out here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so sometimes we just need you to be a little bit more understanding. And so they have their first fight, you know, post-matrimony is because he's expecting her to kind of show up differently.
Differently. Well, I appreciate that. It seems like it's very raw, very real, and supportive. I love that you brought that word supportive up because when you're trying to give constructive criticism, sometimes people can get hurt and not really hear what you're trying to say that's helpful. And so the statistics for millennials nowadays are looking a little different. So what would you say the millennials are doing wrong? What are we not getting right? What are people not really, black, white, purple, brown, yellow, millennials in general, across the board, the statistics are a little shady. So what is it that we're doing and need to do better?
Well, I'll be honest, I don't think I'm the authority to say what we're doing wrong.
Right.
Because what I think is, I think we're doing a lot of things right. I think that we are pushing past so much generational trauma.
Thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. Thank
I
you,
think we are
thank you,
pushing
thank
past
you.
so many different things. I think that our parents, and not because they were wrong, but because of all of these generational things that have stemmed, you know, if we want to be honest, from slavery and Jim Crow and all of the things. We haven't been here that long free, right? Okay, it's been 150, 160 years. I think that we have all of these things that have been passed down to us. And so I think we have not prioritized marriage and community in that way.
But do you
It's
think
been
that's a
about self-
millennial thing, or is that an after generation of millennials? Because I feel like some millennials are still very traditional. I think it's the group after.
Yeah.
Well, the ones that the millennials raised.
Well, this is the
that group.
Yeah, that crew. 'Cause that is a different culture now that I see.
Well, what I'm saying is this statistics show that we're getting married later in life.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that has to do is that we have been seduced by isolated success. That wasn't wrong. I think that's an overcorrection of our, you know, of our parents and our grandparents saying that you need the house and you need this. So you have people planning careers and planning all these things. And the most important thing that you ever do in your life is find a companion to live with until you die.
Right.
And you will find a person to build and create other little people with. That is the most important. But we kind of de-emphasized some of those things. So I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I think we're taking longer to figure that out. And I think we've prioritized education. We know that Black women are the most educated demographic in the United States.
I don't want to argue because I know they got questions. But I'll ask one question because I wonder, is it just, do you think that's in our community or all communities? Do you think it's just men, or now it's women kind of jumping in the men field? Because I feel like men weren't brought to raise to marry.
Yeah, but I think it's exacerbated in our community. It's exaggerated because of what we've gone through. So I think it's an American thing. I think it's a Westernized thing. I think it's
all
you know,
kind of,
it's
all
kind of
factors,
things.
so
But
many
what
factors.
we suffer is totally different, right? And so we're like, if nothing else, right, get your money. But you're saying that to people who have gone from being enslaved to being, because let's keep it real, right? After Emancipation Proclamation, you go from enslaved to being homeless, and we have 5 million that happened to all at once. Everybody didn't get, 40 acres and a mule. And if they did, it still doesn't mean that they had shoes on their feet to walk into the front door. And so we have all of these things to still deal with. I think that it's tough in our generation, and we want it to be fixed tomorrow, and I would love that, but I think that we still have so many things to figure out because we have competing ideals about what that means. What is success? Is it family? Is it money? Is it legacy? Is it all of those things? You know, and so I think that's why we're getting married a little bit later, and that's also why we have hilarious stories about fully functioning adults who are trying to somehow merge their lives at 35, 40 years old.
That's amazing.
That can be challenging too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of challenging.
Definitely.
Because you're so used to being single and
Yes.
trying to bring
I
another
was
person in the
definitely-
household.
Yeah.
I have a question. Because all this is amazing, but I'm wondering, what made you want to build all of this here in Texas?
Well,
question.
this is, I think, and when you say build all of this here in Texas, you mean just filmmaking in general?
Everything that you're doing, it's rooted here. It's just, you bring in so much here to our our state. We want to thank you
Yeah.
for this production, for this insight, for everything that you're bringing. But what made you want to do it?
Instead of Chicago.
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah.
Chicago is booming.
She's been here since 05. She was studying, but she may want to get back to that
First
question.
of all, I want to say thank you for acknowledging
Yes,
that.
yeah,
Right? I want to say thank you for that. But I think that it's not necessarily that I chose here. I'm glad that it's here. But I chose for it to be rooted not necessarily in Texas, but in authentic Black storytelling.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't matter where I was in the world. If I was in Australia somewhere, I'd still be trying to figure out a way to diasporically like honor us. And so wherever I am, you know, if I'm in Atlanta or if I'm, you know, in California in a couple years, what's important is us, and we are everywhere.
We are everywhere.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
our
yeah.
story translates everywhere,
It
so I
does.
definitely appreciate that.
It does.
As a child coming from parents who are celebrating 45 years
Oh,
this year, the
Time.
drastic difference between what they grew up with,
Yeah.
where they come from,
Yeah.
celebrating 45 years, to having a story that I'm sure is very similar
Yeah.
to yours. I
Yeah.
appreciate you telling that side of how things are different now.
Yeah.
So we don't feel so alone, and we don't feel like we're doing something wrong.
Yes,
It's
yes.
across the board.
Yeah.
I feel like we could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
Like, just your
I would love to.
creativity, the way you speak, it inspired me just in this small time. So I appreciate you. I know the girls appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Please tell our audience a couple things. One, where they can find more information. And then two, please give them information about your premiere.
Absolutely.
That's coming up, I believe, at Match Theater, February 16th.
Yes.
You don't want to miss that.
Match in
Yes.
Tell them
Midtown.
about that experience
Yes.
and that is your commitment.
This is my camera. Well, first of all, I'm just going to say to y'all, I hope you all are there on Monday, February 16th. It's
Yes.
President's Day.
Yes.
So you should have the day
The
off.
schools is closed, the bank is closed too.
Now, you get
So
a
get
baby
your money early.
But it's also like keeping the Valentine's Day vibes going, right?
Okay. I love that.
You know, it's post-Valentine's Day. We are in the centennial of Black History Month, centennial year of Black History Month, 100 years. And that Saturday coming right after that is National Black Cinema Day. So there's a bunch of reasons why you should show up and support this Black female independent,
I love that.
filmmaker. But yes, to your point, on Monday, February 16th at Match Theater at 7 p.m., we have about an hour and a half run of show. We are hosted by KG Smooth, the Velvet Voice of
Okay.
Lebanon.
Yes.
He's a great friend and has always supported. He will be there hosting us. We will play the Newlywed Game with a couple of people who are there, and we will introduce Crystal Luster, a fantastic comedian, influencer, all of the things, an actor, as well as Brandon Goss. All of them will be there. We'll do a creative talk back with you guys, and of course, we're going to watch Tying Knots.
Yes. And social media, all the good things.
Yes, if you are looking for tickets and screening information and to follow us as we go into film festivals over the next year or so, please follow us at Tying Knots Film.
Yes, absolutely. Well, guys, you heard it here first. We will be there firsthand Monday night to see Tying the Knots. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time on the Session Talk Show.
Please listen carefully.